There's something powerful, incredibly powerful about the presence of God, is there not? And I can't not take a minute just to recognize and honor the team that helped us pull together the prayer room this past week. We want to honor Mia and Mason and Ebenezer because it's an incredible thing. If you didn't get a chance, now you can take your seats. If you didn't get a chance to go, it was absolutely amazing. We finished up last weekend a series all about prayer, and so we decided to open it up. We opened it up on Sunday night, but it was so significant, so powerful that we planned to open it through till Wednesday. There was such a demand. We opened up Thursday. Then there was such a demand. We opened up Friday. Then there was such a demand. We opened it all the way up till lunchtime on Saturday. And it really was incredible to see. And I just heard story after story after story of people saying, man, God met me in a way I'd never experienced before. I heard him speak in a way I never heard him speak before. I prayed out loud for the first time. Different stories like this. It was truly incredible. If you missed out, don't worry. That's not going to be the last time we're going to do a 24/7 prayer room. But there's something I wanted to just recognize it. One, to honor the team. But two, to say that it was just meant to be a spark. It was meant to be the spark of something for the rest of our days. And courageous, don't let it be ending this week with the prayer room, because honestly, there is something that as we allow that to fuel us, it can shape and transform our prayer lives day in, day out, week in, week out, and it can make all the difference. But you know what? I really believe that when you start to experience more of the presence of God and the power of God, I think that one of the things that happens is that actually we catch his heart. And in the next 2 weeks, we're going to talk about two things that are absolutely right at the heart of God, especially as we're running up to Easter, the best time of the year, the greatest celebration in this year. And today I want to spark another fire within you. If last week sparked something of the fire of prayer, I want to spark something else within us today. And I don't know about what you've got planned for the week coming up. So sorry, production team, this isn't working. I think we need to just change the battery. But we've got a very exciting week ahead in the Thomas household, because tomorrow is my son Benaya's birthday. And lots of you guys know him. He is a big bundle of energy. He is, if you don't know me and Saz, we have 4 kids. He's the only boy, so we got 1 son and 3 daughters. And he is enough testosterone and energy bottled up in him for one. And he turns 10 tomorrow, double digits. But some of you guys know this, but Benaya's real deep passion, his longing, the thing that he wants to be more than anything right now is a pilot, right? And several of you guys have been very kind to him, very encouraging in this area. But I was preaching sometime last year saying about this and talking about how Saz and I are terrified at the idea of how we're going to fund pilot school. And then somebody came up to me after and said, hey, do you know that you can actually get free flying lessons for your son? I was like, tell me more. Anything free for my kids, I'm in, especially now when it's about his dream. It turns out it's true. Apparently, there is basically a nationwide organization of pilots that volunteer their time to give kids their first ever flying lesson. I was like, this is amazing. And so I've managed to book it in on his birthday week. We're going this Saturday. I cannot wait. And so I was too excited. I didn't want to wait for his birthday, so I told him anyway. So I was like, why don't you leave it as a surprise? It's like, me and him, we're the excitable pair here, right? Anyway, and so when I told him, it was funny because what happened was, firstly, I told him, and he just did a lap of the house. He didn't say anything. He just, like the excitement, he ran around the house. I was like, where's he gone? Is he running off? And then he came back and he comes to me and he goes, Dad, this is the greatest thing you've ever done for me. And it was one of those beautiful moments. And I was like, okay, I'm not sure it's the greatest thing we've ever done for you, but right now I know that this to you really is. But it got me thinking, because that innocent, beautiful moment of passion, it got me thinking about just even that idea of the greatest things we go through, the greatest things we experience. And I want to ask you this question today, Courageous. What do you think is the greatest thing anyone's ever done for you? What's the greatest thing you think anyone's done for you. Maybe it is a childhood memory that you remember, like Benaiah is going to remember this for the rest of his life. I don't know, the moment that you wanted to go and see your favorite sports team and your parents managed to get you a place on the field. Or maybe it's your parents themselves and you think about the sacrifice they made, the things they went through, the challenges. Maybe it's a friend that had a pivotal conversation that changed the course of your career. Or maybe it's the person that introduced you to your spouse. I don't know what it is, but we all have these moments, don't we? The greatest things. And I was reflecting on this and I was thinking about, I've got great parents and they've been amazing to me. I think about obviously my incredible wife, and I even think about our pastors. You know, Saz mentioned our worldwide movement of churches, and there were so many great moments. But as I reflected on it, there was one thing, one moment and one person that simmered to the top. And as I thought about it, everything else started to pale in comparison to this one moment, this one thing, the greatest thing that anybody has ever done for me. And it was when I was 16. And his name, my friend, is called Alex Gig. And he was a kid that I went to school with through middle school and through high school. And Alex was great. He was a great friend of mine. He was, a great sportsman. He was a good laugh. But there was one thing that Alex did for me that nobody else had ever done for me. And he got me to Jesus. Because at the time, he was the only Christian friend that I'd ever met. And Alex did for me the greatest thing that anybody has ever done and will ever be able to do. And he got me in a room where I got to meet Jesus. And as I reflected on it, and I thought about it, because as I asked myself the question, I was thinking about the great birthdays, I was thinking about the moments we had our kids, but then actually as I reflected on it, it is the single greatest thing anyone will ever be able to do for me. Why? Because it is the only thing in my life that is eternal. Everything else is mortal. Everything else is temporary. And the next 2 weeks, Saz and I want to talk about just this. We want to talk about living our lives to get people to Jesus. Because do you know what? It's great as a parent having my son say, oh, this is the greatest thing you've ever done for me. It's great as a friend to have moments that have been able to be influential. It's great as a husband, as a son. But the greatest thing that any of us could ever do and ever commit our lives to is simply getting people to Jesus and giving people an opportunity to encounter not just a temporary enjoyment, but an eternal transformation. And as we come up to Easter, this is what I want us to be dialing in on. We spent the last 5 weeks praying and growing and changing and experiencing the goodness of God. And now we're going to go and share it with the world around us. And there's a story in the scriptures that I absolutely love that I think just brings this to life in a whole different way. It's probably a story that if you grew up in church, you know about this, you've read this, maybe you've even colored it in on a little thing in Sunday school, but it's from Mark chapter 2. And it's the story of the 4 friends that bring their friend to Jesus. And it goes like this. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. So a little bit of context here. Basically, Jesus has gone out and he's started to minister and preach, and he's doing these amazing different miracles, and like the word is starting to spread about him, but he's basing himself in this place, and he's going to and from there, and he returns back. And they gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door. Just imagine the scene, people are hanging out of the windows, the door, it's like busting, like there's literally no room anywhere. And Jesus just preached the word to them. And let's go on to this next bit. Some men came bringing to him a paralyzed man carried by 4 of them. And we don't really know how they were related. Were they 5 friends? Were they brothers? Were they work colleagues? I do like to kind of imagine unlikely versions of the Gospels as well. And sometimes I sort of think, what if they were 4 friends that saw someone they never met before, picked him up? I don't know, right? We don't know. But they carried him to Jesus. And since they could not get him to Jesus, write that down in your Bibles. Underline it. Highlight it. Do whatever you need to do to point it out. Get him to Jesus. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they talked amongst themselves and decided they'd come back the next day. Now, it doesn't say that, does it? They sort of talked amongst themselves and said, well, we don't want to make a scene. Let's find out the next appointment that Jesus has. But it doesn't say that either, does it? It doesn't say, oh, because of the crowd, they gave up and, well, we've missed our chance. No, instead, if you know the story, this is where it gets really cool. Because they couldn't get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it. Just the Bible's crazy. You know, if you went to Sunday school, you read this story, and you've probably read over this like so many times. Like, oh yeah, they went up and dug up. No, sorry, hold on a second. They scaled the house and started to dig a hole in someone else's roof. Who on earth is going to be cool with that today? You get home and you're there and you're sort of thinking, man, the AC's not working today. Why is it so hot in this house? And you realize that someone's torn a hole in the roof of your house. I mean, imagine if it happened now. Imagine if in the middle of this preach, you started to hear somebody scraping and cutting like, an angle grinder. That would be kind of like the modern day version of like that. But just think about it. Because we read this story like, oh yeah, the 4 friends bought their paralyzed friend, they climbed, dug a hole. That's a normal day. Think about the desperation. Think about the absolute, utter determination. I mean, think about this. Think about the irreverence. You've got Jesus, who to them at the time at least was a holy man and a prophet, and they're digging a hole above his head. I love to think of the moment that Jesus is there and then there's dust in his hair, kind of coming down. We went to the beach yesterday and then we did a whole lot of yard work, and I went inside after a couple of hours and I put my hands through my hair and it just came out black with the dust in it. You imagine the Son of God, they were so desperate to get their friend to Jesus, they would do anything. They would do anything. They would do anything. They dug a hole above Jesus by digging through it, and then they lowered the mat the man was lying on. This is radical. This is crazy, but here, this next verse is where I think the whole point of this story lands. Look at this. When Jesus saw, let's highlight it, their faith. When Jesus saw their faith. It doesn't say when Jesus saw the faith of the paralyzed man. It doesn't say when Jesus saw the plight of the paralyzed man. It says when Jesus saw what was in these 4 friends, then something changed. I want you to underline that word there. Their faith. And look at this. He doesn't say you're healed. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, son, your sins are forgiven. You see, these 4 people brought him to Jesus thinking he needed healing, but Jesus understood that really he needed saving. And I want us to talk about what it looks like to live like the 4 friends. Because as we talk and we run up into Easter, I don't know if you know this, but obviously Easter is the single greatest time of the year to invite somebody to church. Even more than Christmas, even more than back to church Sunday, even more than all the different things that we do, Easter is the single greatest time to get somebody to come back to church. But you know what? In the 2 years of Courageous Church, April and May have historically been our 2 biggest months of seeing new people coming into church. This is not just about Easter Sunday. We are entering into, as a church, a season of outreach. A season where we don't just say, okay, man, the prayer room was incredible. I experienced the presence of God for the first time, and I'm going to keep it to myself. No, actually, what we say is now I've got to go and share it. Now I've got to go and get this into other people's lives. The freedom I felt, the peace I felt, the hope I felt. If we keep it to ourselves, we are so selfish. There is something in this season as we come into Easter and we come into April and we come into May that we're going to get out of our 4 walls, not just for one Sunday. We're going to reach people to help them find what we have found in him. I believe that God is calling us courageous to be like the 4 friends. To be irreverently determined and dig holes in roofs. I don't think Jesus called you to be a nice, polite Christian. I think he called you to be desperately about the salvation of people around us. There's 4 things I want us to pull out from this. Let's look at this. Here's the first one. And it might seem really, really simple, but this is profound and powerful. Here's the first thing about the 4 friends. Very, very first thing is that they knew someone who needed something. I know it seems obvious, but just go there with me, right? They knew someone who needed something. This story doesn't exist if they didn't have a friend with a problem. This story doesn't exist and isn't incredible and isn't awe-inspiring if they weren't first connected to someone that needed something. But here's the challenge. Most of us spend most of our time with people that have already found that thing. I'm a pastor. I spend 99% of my time with Christians. And I love it, but I also hate it. Because it's not actually the core part of my mission of why I exist. There is something about where this story begins for us. Some of us, the first thing we're going to need to do off the back of church today is start to put together an intentional plan about how we're going to get more connected with people that need Jesus as well. Let me ask you this today. Who are you connected to? You know, when we talk about Easter and we talk about an outreach season, we talk about April and May. And listen, we're stacking April and May. We've got so many great events to bring friends to and different things at church. We are going to absolutely smash Mother's Day. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be such a great place. We're going to have a summer kickoff at the end of May. We've got Pastor Josh Cook coming 2 weeks after Easter to preach for us. He's from our church in Cape Town. We've got guests at the start of May. We've got so many things. May and April are going to be absolutely incredible. But it starts with actually being connected to people that would want to or need to come. The first step in actually outreaching and seeing people saved is being connected to people that need to find him. And do you know, the predominant person that stays in Courageous Church is somebody new to the city looking for community. And we love community here at Courageous. I love seeing the Instagrams and the stories, the fact that people will say, I found family. We love it, we love it, we love it, we love it. But the problem is that when we make church about that, we stay in our bubble. And God's calling us out. God's calling us out. We created that prayer room so that we could have a place of intensity to encounter him, to then send us out into a city that needs him. Look at this in Mark verse 13. It's really interesting because the story carries on. The man ends up getting healed and all this kind of stuff. But then it shifts gears and there's another story, but they're kind of connected. Look at this. Once again, Jesus went out beside the lake, and a large crowd came to him, and he began to teach them. Again, he's drawn this crowd. He's starting to teach them. As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector's booth. Again, if you might not know this, but a tax collector back in the time of the Bible was literally the worst of the worst, the lowest of the low. This is somebody that Jesus shouldn't have even given any attention to, let alone done what he's about to do. And he turns to him and says, "Follow me," Jesus told him. And Levi got up and followed him. Jesus was out somewhere in a situation where he could see someone lost. He was actually out in his world. He was out in his day, not just kind of on a journey, but on a mission. Look at this. He says this, while Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house. So he doesn't just see him in the street. He says, let's spend some time together. Yeah. I actually want to come over to your house. But this is really controversial. Look at this. While he was having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors, let me translate that, many bad people, many sinners, many people who wore their sin like visibly, many people lost and hopeless, many people, look at this, many tax collectors and sinners. Think about this. This means that they were living their life so much that their sin was on show to everybody. Most of us are really good at hiding our sin, aren't we? And we look great, but there's stuff going on. These people, this is like they are desperate. And they were eating with him, eating with Jesus. There are many people in our city that don't even feel like they can come to church because of the worthlessness they feel. We get to be people that go and take the church to their homes. We get to be the people that go and take dignity to dining tables that we shouldn't ever be at. We get to be people that go and do what Jesus did. Jesus didn't put on a show and wait for people to come. He went and got them. He went and got them. He went and got them. Look at this. When there were many tax collectors and sinners eating with him, for there were many who followed him. When the teachers of the law, who were the Pharisees, saw him eating with the sinners and tax collectors, they asked his disciples, why does he eat with them? Why is he even around them? Do you know what religion will always want to do? Is separate you from the people that Jesus is trying to help you find. It will always put your religious reputation higher than someone's salvation. Do you really want to be known for knowing them? Do you want to be found around them? Now, let me just make something very clear. Jesus wasn't sinning along with the sinners. I'm not talking about compromising our witness. I know some of us have made some really bold decisions, many people in our church choosing sobriety. And do you know what? There's wisdom in not maybe going back to those friendship groups, perhaps in this season of life. But here's the question. Where's the new friendship group you're reaching? There's something about, here's the question I want to ask you is, can you be found around people that need to find Jesus? Can you be found around people who need to find Jesus? Because here's the thing, church. If we're not, we're never going to see people saved. Because there's something about living part of our life and even orientating part of our lives around being connected with people who don't yet know Jesus. I want to ask you this. Maybe the new gym you've been looking for. Perhaps you shouldn't be looking for the next cheap deal. Perhaps you should be looking for the next community to connect with. Maybe the fact that you go to the same coffee shop and know everybody, maybe you need to try somewhere new so that you can connect with someone new. The reason this story starts is brilliant is because they knew someone who needed something. Next week, Saz is going to talk to us about something we call Faith for 5. And it's something we're going to practice for the whole of the next year. And it's all about living an intentional life where we are connecting and connected to people who need to find Jesus. That's where it starts. The second thing is this. These 4 friends, what do? They inconvenience themselves. Think about it. How much of a pain was it to them to have to carry their friend on a mat and even get him to the house in the first place? I don't know about you, but when it comes to kind of inviting people to Easter and, you've got some cards on your table, there are some times where we want it to be convenient, don't we? We want it to be easy. I mean, let's be honest, we live in the land of convenience, don't we? And that's not a Brit saying something about American culture. Let's just recognize it for what it is. And I'm all about it as well. I love quick deliveries and fast food takeouts. Anybody else? But the reason we get annoyed, there's where you go, come on, Josh. The reason we get annoyed when our coffee is 30 seconds later, I ordered it on the app and it said that it'd be here, is because we hate to be inconvenienced. I've got stuff to get on with, places to be, money to make, things to do. And the problem is that when we live with that mentality day in, day out, we actually attach it to people as well. And we're vigilant about people on a Sunday, but then Monday, no, man, I've got to get that profit margin up. Monday, I've got to get those to-dos done. Tuesday, don't you know what I've got? Wednesday, do you see what I'm saying? They literally inconvenienced themselves. Look at this again. Let's go to that scripture. What did they were saying? They orientated everything about their lives to get him to Jesus. Where this week could you inconvenience yourself? Where this week could you drive 20 minutes out of the direction just to get to the coffee shop you know that person's serving in? Where can you inconvenience yourself and not just quickly get the lunch stop, but actually stop and talk to the server? There are simple things that we can do to inconvenience ourselves that in some small way we start to step into being like the 4 friends. Asking someone's name. It's a real pet peeve of mine, but when I watch people in a restaurant and the server's there and they don't even look at them. I'll take a burger. Yeah, I'll get a water. Yeah, we just need to get on with this business meeting here. When you have a lost human being stood to your side. Hey, I'm just going to inconvenience this and I'm going to prefer something eternal to something mortal. Hey, what's your name? It's Devin. Hey, Devin, how long have you been serving here? I've been serving here a year. Oh, that's great, man. Thank you so much. Then when he comes back, Devin, What brought you to serving at this restaurant? Well, actually, I came to the city for something else, but it didn't work out. What didn't work out, Devin? Well, I had a dream, but I failed, and honestly, I feel a little bit stuck now. Hey, Devin, I want to talk to you about the God that helps people get out of their stuck places. Devin, I don't believe I just came here for lunch today. I think I came here for you today. Listen, I know it's a big postcard, but Devin, I want to invite you to Easter at my church. Or maybe in April, like, hey, I don't know if you went to church at Easter, but, through April and May, we've got so many amazing things coming on because there's something about inconveniencing ourselves. Sometimes I actually believe that God inconveniences your life on purpose as well. I've been experiencing a lot of this recently with my cars. It's been a nightmare. Absolutely terrible. We had all three of our cars, we had to sell one in the end. All three of our cars were off the road for 6 weeks. And it was a nightmare, fighting with the warranty companies and the garages and all this at the garage. Sorry, just clarity. I got about a month in and I was so frustrated. I'm a pretty resilient guy, but I lost it more than once. And do you know what? This one particular Friday when I thought I was getting the car back and instead found that it was going to be a lot more money and we weren't going to get it back for another couple of weeks, felt the Lord say this. Why do you think this is about a car? What about the people in the garage? Went back in, ended up having 3 gospel conversations with 3 different people. Actually ended up going for coffee with one of them, where he just started spilling his heart. They're now 3 of my Easter invites this year. Maybe the problem you're facing is actually God's plan to get you on the path of some other person. Because this is what I've learned about God is if I won't inconvenience myself, he'll inconvenience me. They knew someone who needed something. They oriented their life around it. Thirdly, what did they do? They bore his burden. They carried him when he couldn't carry himself. Our world is desperate. And maybe you don't know somebody physically impaired like this paralyzed man was, but I believe you do know people in your neighborhood, they might not have shown you yet, that are paralyzed in fear. Paralyzed by depression. Paralyzed by failure. And do you know what? If all it is this year is an invite to Easter, that's great. But you want to take it one step further, start to bear their burden. How, you might say? Just ask them how they are. Ask them what's going on in their life and how you might in some small way be able to help them or serve them. Because do you know what? When we start to bear people's burden, we actually start to take Jesus to them before we get them to Jesus. I think something of the faith of the men carrying him stood the faith of the man on the mat. And there are times where we can miss just the power of bearing people's burden. One of my Faith for 5, and as I said, Saz is going to talk more about this next week, oh my goodness, was my tattoo artist. And I know you might have different opinions about tattoos. Let's put that to the side a second. And I met back in 2017, and I really felt the Lord say, I want you to reach this guy. I want you to reach this guy. Only problem was he really didn't want to be reached. Really didn't want to be reached. And I would go into the tattoo parlor and I would literally walk through the door and it would be 30 seconds before I'm getting a barrage of something about church, about faith. One time I walked in and he, from the back of the room, yelled, "Oh, I've heard I got to pay to come to your church." He was talking about giving and tithing and generosity. My return to it was like, "How do you think I pay you, mate? Come on, get over it." And then we would start having these conversations, and he was like, "I'm never coming to church." And I said to him, "I am going to keep getting tattoos with you until you come to church one day." He said, "Fantastic. You're going to make me rich and you'll be covered." All until COVID. Because in COVID, the lockdown in the UK was profound. Very, very, very challenging. And a couple of weeks into it, Saz actually said to me, she said, "But the shop's closed. He can't be earning money. Like, how is he doing?" I said, "I'm not sure." And Saz said, "I think you need to reach out to him." So I called him, and I didn't know him very well at the time, but I said, hey, it's Dave. And he's like, Dave who? And so, Dave, Pastor Dave. He's like, oh, what do you want? I just wanted to reach out and just check that you're doing okay. What do you mean? I said, well, the shop's closed, and, you must be not able to make any money right now. And listen, I don't have a lot of money myself, but if I could help in any way, shape, or form, if you need something, me and Saz just wanted you to know that we're people you could reach out to. Oh, no, I'm fine. Hey, well, if there's anything you need, please reach out. And the conversation finishes. I don't hear anything from him for another 2 weeks, but then his name comes up on my phone and I answer it. Hey, yeah, is that Dave? Yeah, it is. And I jump in straight away because I didn't want him to feel awkward. I said, just want to let you know the office still stands. If things are tough, he said, no, I'm good. But man, I'm lonely. I spend all day, every day with people, and here I am sat at home doing nothing. You got any time to talk? I said, I'll do you one better, because I knew he had dogs. I said, let's go for a walk. He's got these 2 huge Rottweilers. I'm not a big dog guy. So the first walk we had, he was 10 yards in front. I was behind, going, yeah, great. Point them that way. And every couple weeks, we just started going for walks. And there, just out in the rain, in the cold, he starts opening up. Starts talking about the frustration and the disappointment he feels in himself. Starts talking about the dreams he feels like he cannot ever actually chase. We start building relationship. He finally came to church on our last Sunday in the UK. And he sat in the middle of the service, and he and his now wife bawled the entire time at the sense of the power and the presence of God. The one thing he said to me, is, I wish I came sooner. It's been 7 years of reaching him. And every single time we go back to the UK, we go to his tattoo parlor. And every couple of weeks, I message him. And every couple of months, I check in. Because the fourth thing that these men did is they didn't give up. They didn't give up. Where this Easter are you not going to take no for an answer? And I'm not talking about becoming some crazy Christian that irritates people. That rarely works. But a persistent friend, a persistent sister, brother, a persistent colleague that says, you've got to come and experience some of what I have. I believe that God is calling the church out of the church. I believe he's calling us into our streets, into our homes, into the beaches. And look, one simple thing, you see, you've got these flyers on your chairs, but also we've got you some yard signs that you can get out and we can plaster these all right. We've got 100 of these, right? Church, I want to need to order more. I want to need to order more. Maybe you could take some for your apartment complex, your neighborhood. Maybe you want to take a handful and just go around somewhere in Charleston and just start putting them up. Guys, let's get in trouble for it. Oh, can we put it here? I don't care. I'd rather get a phone call from the county saying you can't put your signs there. I'd rather get a notice that we've been littering because they're everywhere. Because I'd rather dig a hole in a roof. I'd rather make some mess. I'd rather offend in the hope that someone might hear Jesus say, son or daughter, your sins are forgiven. So where are you going to go this week, Courageous? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to reach? Who are you going to connect to? Maybe it's somebody that you've known for years, or maybe it's somebody new. The God of all the ages is calling us up and out. And it's not just a program. It's not just a project. There's a shift happening within our church this year. And one of them that is going to be so fundamental is we are going to be a church that lives for the people outside of these walls. And I'm going to pray for us now that there would be a boldness of God that would come upon us. And we're going to worship one final time as we're going to get sent out into this week, ready to reach a lost and desperate world. Would you stand with me? And maybe you need to close your eyes. Maybe you need to lift your hands. Maybe there's something of defiance in these moments. I love to raise up 2 clenched fists to say, God, make me bold. But here we go. Come on, Father, I pray that there would be such a boldness over your church in this season. God, I pray that we would not take no for an answer. God, I pray that we would be those that are willing to dig holes in roofs. God, I pray, Father, that we would be persistent. I pray, God, that we be determined. I pray this week, Lord, that you would connect us to people. The conversations would happen in our workplaces, in our homes, in our colleges. The Lord Jesus, we would see a move of you. Amen.